Welcome to Conjuredcraft. My name is Taryn, and this week I want you to touch some grass. In order for this craft to take place, there are three things that had to align. 1. I attended a workshop with Jacob of Bonhouse Miniatures, where he led us in an exercise of sculpting on natural materials. This is a subject that I'm no stranger to, but have been wanting to explore in more detail. 2. This workshop happened during spring. A spring that saw more sun than any previously on record here in England. This meant I could spend an incredible amount of time outdoors. 3. Hidden within a city, there is a strip of land surrounded by a river. That river is bordered by a circle of trees, and tucked within those trees is a meadow. My meadow. Despite being in the heart of a city, you can listen to the chittering of insects, feel the wind on the leaves, and most importantly, find a variety of plant life to use for crafting. While you don't need a hidden green space to participate in this craft, you will have to step out of your door, be fairly comfortable with nature, and above all else, open to trying something new. This video, like everything else that I have made, is less of a how to make this and more of a how I made this. More than usual, it's going to test some of your attention spans. Because to get the result I wanted from this experiment, we have to change up the order of how you would expect a miniature to be made. The beginning, thankfully, is pretty straightforward. I've selected a series of peasants for the majority of this warband, both for their availability and some lore reasons. After pinning them to their bases, I'm going to add some texture using my favorite technique. 2 years ago, I saved used bags of tea and coffee grounds, dried them out in my oven, and put them in a glass jar. I've been using this same batch for all kinds of miniature textures ever since. You could run this through a fine mesh sieve to separate the particles if you wanted to get some really fine grit, but alternatively, lightly sprinkling baking soda and applying a thin superglue also works in a pinch. Now we move straight on to priming these models, which is strange, I know, considering that they don't have any heads and everyone is missing at least one of their arms. Just trust me on this. I'm a professional at making things up as I go. For base coating, I'm essentially creating a heat map. Anywhere I want to be cooler or darker, I'm using blues and purples. If a part is in direct light and needs to be brighter, I switch to reds and yellows. I also chose one model to experiment with green instead of red, just to see if the results would be noticeable in the final paint scheme. It's always a good idea to try something new while you're trying something new. After this rainbow base layer, there's going to be a heavy-handed dry brushing in the next step, which will tie in all the different colors. That gets followed up by some washes, which helps unify all the chaos happening on each of the miniatures. This is exactly how I painted the terrain for my Kaijun Kit Bash last month, only on a much smaller scale. But that's what I want with these minis. I want them to look more like terrain since they aren't people anymore. As confident as I may sound in this voiceover, during painting, I was convinced I made a critical error. The mid-project slump was now an early project spiral. I could only get an hour or two of hobbying in each night after very long days of working with tiny humans during devastating heat waves. And my brain was pretty much fried. But I resolved to push through and start gluing on the missing appendages, and that's when I got my second wind. Since that workshop in spring, I've been collecting and preserving a variety of stigmas, anthers, and other head-shaped pieces to use on these miniatures. This variety in shape and size means that I can make each unit more unique than the last. I have no idea what the specific names of each of these plants are, but I only take a piece here and there, and now that I've got a solid collection, I can hide away during the winter months, no foraging until next year. For the arms of these fodder, I found some twigs and dried vines that worked with the silhouettes, and once each of the miniatures had their respective limbs, I mixed some green paint to watered down glue to add on some more greenery with dried leaves. If you're a friend to the channel, you already recognize this mini. My Headless Hill Giant was a passion project to encourage sculpting, kit bashing, and just making big chunky miniatures. I sculpted this figure a year ago as a way to have a larger base model that could be used in any number of projects. For this warband, it's going to serve as the spellcaster, my spirit of the forest, or as she's called in this world, the Green. Instead of repeating the process I just outlined in the first section, I want to talk a little bit about how I scavenge and save the natural bits for this craft. Spring to summer is my ideal time to look for materials. The sun, whether you like it or not, is always out, so you can see very clearly what you're picking up. Plants are healthy, flowers are blooming and seeding, and you can find flora that still has a great variety of color. I get that some people are a little skeptical about this. Plants eventually die, and in doing so they discolor and rot. Consider, however, that's what happens when they're exposed to moisture. When plant matter is outside, it has to deal with rain, air, and changing temperatures. If you can bring everything you find inside to a controlled environment, they will dry out slowly, retaining their color and strength. It's the same principle as putting a leaf into a book or a flower into a press. So allow me to introduce you to the hot water cupboard. I know not everyone's home is the same, but my hot water cylinder is in a tiny closet. So it's a space that's always warm and has little to no moisture. This is where all of my art goes when I'm waiting for paint or glue to dry. It's also a perfect place to preserve your plant material. A few of you are likely still paranoid, and you want to avoid bringing crawly critters into your home. I would say two things. First, this may not be the project for you. Bugs are everywhere. There is a spider somewhere in your home right now, and there's not much you can do about it. If you're afraid of nature, that's fair. Just keep paying for flocking and other basing materials. Oh, and the second, you can just throw this stuff into the oven, and that will kill anything on your sticks and rocks and such, but it will affect the color, how it dries, and of course, now you're putting dirt in your oven, so which of us is really the weirder one? To complete the hill giant, I asked my coven for some help with a community poll, since I was overwhelmed with potential head options. In the end, I decided to do a mix of materials. The head is made using a pine cone that I saved from my last trip to Nottingham, and the dried avocado skins are from some meal or another. This result turned out so much better than I could have hoped. To me, it perfectly captures some plant that has bloomed and is now drying out in the blazing summer sun, so its seeds can lie dormant for the winter. Besides the occasional poll, behind the scenes content, and fortnightly hangouts on our community Discord, my coven is the backbone of this channel, and I wouldn't be able to make any of these projects without their support. If you've been a fan for a while, or are brand new to the channel but want to help, consider supporting me by buying some merch or becoming a member on conjuredcraft.com. The last detail I desperately wanted to give the green was a staff or wand, as she's the spellcaster for this battle group. In the end, I created a sort of shillelagh. This not only works with the silhouette, it also got me so close to my original concept art, and I am absolutely chuffed at this final result. To lead our court of green, we need a green knight. And she comes to us by way of my friend Noe, which is perfect for this group of minis. The chaff are all misshapen, bent, fluid. The green, on the other hand, is huge and imposing. I want our knight to be somewhere in the middle of these two. To emphasize her verticality and make sure that she has something to fight with, I kit bashed her a sword, added on the textures, and filled a gap in with some clay where her new arm meets her torso. I've made plenty of art projects where I find a stone or a stick, bring it home, clean it up, and paint over it to look once again like a stone or a stick. There's nothing wrong with this method. Plenty of much more talented artists than myself do it all the time. The point of this craft, however, was to challenge myself. I changed the order of how I've been making miniatures for 5 years. I applied a new paint technique from large-scale terrain to 28mm. And most exacting of all, I gave up control of the final look of the models. Instead of trying to force nature to look the way I want it to be, I had to work with it instead. That would be a really nice way to end the video. Or maybe with some metaphor about our responsibility to the world around us. But the truth is, I just like being outside. It's not the only way I like to relax and reset, but getting offline for a few hours is how I cope with fear. Taking a walk in the meadow is how I combat fatigue, and making time for the things that bring me whimsy and joy is one of the ways that I fight back against the growing forces of fascism. Feel free to let me know how you like to cope in the comments, or just out yourself by telling me that I'm wrong. Either way, I will appreciate the engagement. If you remember this seed pod from earlier, I managed to get a few of them in different stages of sprouting, and I'll be using this one to replace the Sunflower Knight's head. This is the only unique piece I'm adding to this model, which is funny since it looks identical to the original head. I did look at some other options, but when you get the feeling that something is over, it's best just to put it in the dirt. I'm in love with these models. I love everything about the way they turned out. The colors, the textures, everything. I'm teetering dangerously close to making an entire army using this method. This technique could be applied towards Sylvaneth proxies, Ents for Middle Earth, and these particular units would be right at home in Turnip 28. If you feel the same way about this technique and want to apply it to one of your armies, I would love to hear about it down below. A very special thank you to my Coven members who made the switch from Patreon to my new website. To express my gratitude, I'm sending each of you a handmade gift using some objects from my neck of the woods that I've been preserving, all of which, unlike your home, I can guarantee are spider-free. Thank you for watching this video. I'm happy you're here. Until next time, I'll see you soon.